Here are some of the JOSM tools that I use the most, especially when I'm cleaning up the work from other mappers. I find that a lot of the time when I'm using JOSM, I'm using keyboard shortcuts that are easy to forget. So hopefully this video will help with that, but if you forget, you can find them in the Tools or More Tools menu at the top, or under the Preferences menu, under Keyboard Shortcuts. For some of the tools I'm going to show you, you'll need a couple plugins. So if you go to the plugin menu, you can add your plugins there. You'll need the Buildings tool plugin and the Utils plugin too. Starting with the more simple tools, the most common tool to use is the Square or Orthogonalize tool. And to use that, you want to select a feature. So you press S so that you're in select mode. You click on a feature, and then you press the Q key. That will make the corners 90 degrees. To move a feature, you just left click and drag it. It doesn't have to be selected. To resize a feature, you want to click it, select it, and then press Ctrl Alt. Now you just left click and drag. To rotate a feature, you also want it selected, and you hold Ctrl Shift, and then you left click and move the feature around. To disconnect two nodes that are joined together, you just select it and press the G key, as in unglue. Now they are separated. If you want to merge two nodes together, then you just select them both and then press the M key, as in merge. There's a tool called Extrude that I find really useful. This tool lets you move segments of a polygon. So to use that tool, you press the X key, and then you can just click and drag short lines of a polygon and move it as one piece. I find it really helpful for complex shapes. If you want to add a cutout here, you can add an extra node between these two nodes. So you press A to add another node, you double click where you want your segment to start, then you use the Extrude tool to move this piece. So you press X, and now I can click and drag. So next I want to show you the Buildings tool, so that's from the Buildings tool plugin. To turn that plugin on, you just press the B key for building. You'll see the little structure beside your cursor. And now I can easily draw a shape with just a few clicks. It's automatically squared and it already has the building tag added to it. To set this tool to draw a circle, you just press Alt Z when the plugin is turned on. To switch it back to drawing rectangular buildings, you just press Alt R, and now you can draw rectangles again. I always forget these shortcuts, but you can find them under Data and Set Building Shape to Circle or to Rectangle. If you're drawing a row of buildings, it's safe to assume that they're aligned to each other or part of a road. So what's nice about this tool is that if you have another feature selected, it will automatically draw features aligned to that shape. For example, I have this feature selected, so now all of the buildings that I draw will be aligned with this one. So I just have to click and drag to draw a building, and it's even easier than before. You can also do this with part of a road selected, and it will draw buildings aligned to that piece of road. If you want to draw an L-shaped building, there's a really easy way to do that with the Buildings tool. So I've pressed B, I have the Buildings tool activated, and now I want to draw this L-shaped building as two separate overlapping rectangles. So the first step is to draw the main part of the building as one rectangle, then draw the second part so that it overlaps with the first part and meets at 90 degrees. The best way to do that is to select the first part of the building and then turn the Buildings tool back on. Then when I draw the second part of the building, it will be aligned to this main section. I find it easiest to start drawing at the part that is not connected to the main polygon, then draw diagonally so that it snaps to the outer corner of the L. Now I want to join these two shapes together with another tool. So I select both shapes and use the Combine Overlapping Ways tool with the shortcut Shift-J. Now these two features have become one, but there are some extra nodes left over from the original shapes. So now I want to delete those extra nodes, and the easiest way to do that is with the Simplify Way tool. The shortcut for that tool is Shift-Y. You can play around with this value. I usually keep it at 1 meter and it will show you how many nodes it will remove. Now I press Simplify and those extra nodes are gone. So that's one of the best ways to draw complex shapes, such as an L-shaped building. If you find many buildings that you think should be aligned together, there's an easy way to do that as well. What we want to do is select the buildings we want rotated or aligned, and then select a reference point. To do this, I like to grab all of the buildings that I want rotated at once. So I'll go into Select Mode and select these 3 buildings. Now I want to unselect the nodes because I just want to grab these 3 polygons. So I use Shift-U, and that will unselect all of the nodes, including the node I had selected from the road and from another polygon. So now I want to select the reference angle. So in this case, 2 nodes. And then these features will be aligned to that line segment. So to do that, I want to add to my selection. So I hold Shift, and then I click to nodes from another feature. And now I want to align them. So these ones I want rotated to these 2 points. And to do that, I just use the Square tool or the Orthogonalize tool again. So I just press Q. And now these features have all been rotated so that they're parallel to this line segment. To unselect things, it's easiest just to press Escape. That will clear your selection. Sometimes you'll find that it'll be faster for you to delete and redraw a poorly drawn feature. So in this case, somebody drew many buildings under one building polygon. But if we were to delete this and redraw something, we would lose all of the history from the original feature. And that could include tags from a local user. So there's an easy way to redraw it without losing history, and that's using the Replace Geometry tool. So the way to use that tool is you find a feature that you want to redraw. So this one. And then I redraw it the way I want it as a new feature. So in this case, I'll use the building tool, so I'll press B. And now I'll trace one of the buildings. And now I want to select the original feature, and then the new one I want to replace it with. So I've pressed S to go into select mode. Now I select this feature, and I hold Shift to select 2. Now I have both features selected. And now I use the Replace Geometry tool, which is Control-Shift-G. So now that original feature is gone and my new one remains. And if I were to look at the history of this polygon in the History tab under the selection menu, you can see that the original history remains for this feature, so I can see the original user who drew it, as well as when they drew it, and all of the original tags will be left as well. So the last thing that I want to show you that is really handy when you're reviewing the work from one mapper is the filters function. So I like to filter map features according to the username of the mapper that I'm reviewing. So first I need to get the username of that mapper. You might have it already, but another way to find it is with the History tool. So I have a feature selected. Now I want to check the history of it again. So I press History. It's under the selection menu. And now I want to grab this username and put it on my clipboard. So the easiest way to do that is to right-click on the hyperlink in this window here, and it will copy the URL of this user's OSM profile to my clipboard. So now that I've done that, I want to open up the filter menu. So if you don't have it on the right side of your screen already, you can open it by finding the funnel icon on the left side, or by pressing Alt-Shift-F. So now the filter menu is open and I want to add a new filter. So I press the plus button in the bottom left of the window. And now I want to paste the URL I have on my clipboard into this search bar. And I don't need the whole URL, I just wanted to grab the username at the very end. So I can delete the rest. And the search string that we want is to write user : and then the username. The one caveat here is if you have a username that has a space in it. So say I pasted the URL of a username with a space in it, like my own, you'll see that the space is replaced with a $20, and that won't work with the filter. So instead what we want to do in this case is add user : which is the same, but we want to add quotation marks around the username. And then we want to add the space back in, so I'll just replace the $20 with a space. And now that filter would work. But going back to the original user that I had, I'm going to press Submit Filter. And now automatically it will filter out any features that were added by this user. So you'll see them appear as gray and I can't click on them, I can't interact with them at all. But this isn't really handy if we're trying to review the work from this user. So you'll want to play around with the checkboxes that come up beside the filter in the filter window. The first checkbox under E enables the filter, so it will turn it on or turn it off. The box under H hides features, so all of the features that are gray, if I check this box, they'll completely disappear. And then the last checkbox is under the I, so it stands for inverse the filter. So if I check that, rather than filtering out the work from this user, it filters everything else. So I find it the best to inverse the filter, but uncheck the box under H when I'm reviewing the work from this specific mapper. That way I can only see what they mapped, and I can't interact with other features, but I can still see if they're there. So these are my main tips for the cleanup. If you think I missed any that would be useful to show others, please let me know.